Okay, here I go. It's my absolute belief that foreign language learning as a separate subject should not exist. Let me repeat that. Foreign language learning as a separate subject should not exist. Language is not teachable. Nobody has ever learned a foreign language in the classroom. Let me say that one last time. Foreign language learning as a separate subject should not exist. Learn English, learn French, learn Spanish, Japanese, Chinese are hollow concepts. It's the wrong mindset. Learn English. People say, I want to learn English. I want to learn the English language. Language. What is language? The vast majority of people say language is a tool for communication. A tool for communication. What is a tool for communication? By a tool for communication, most people think speaking. Speak the language. Speak English. People say, I want to speak English. Speak English well, fluently. Speak English. Okay, here is one of the biggest mistakes language learners make. I want to speak English is too broad, is not clear enough. Now, instead of I want to speak English, you should say I want to speak about blah 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 in English. And here you need to be as specific and clear as possible. Don't say I want to speak about my life, my country, my job in English. No, these topics are too broad, too vague. Be as specific and clear as you possibly can. For example, I want to speak about France in the 18th century in English. Or I want to talk about my company's product, which is vitamin pills, in English. Or I want to talk about cryptocurrency in English. You get the point. Make as many examples as you want. As many as you want. Just make sure your examples are clear and specific. I want to talk about the movie Joker in English. So, what is the difference between I want to speak English and I want to speak about, say, France in the 18th century in English? The big difference is that the second sentence clearly shows what you need to do if you want to be able to talk about 18th century France in English. You need to learn about 18th century France. You need to acquire that piece of knowledge, and you need to acquire it in English, not in your native language. And if you want to talk about the movie Joker in English, it's not enough to have seen the movie, but you also need to know how other people talk about movies, discuss movies, the language they use to discuss performances, cinematography, special effects, and so on and so forth. And you need all that information in English if you want to talk about movies, Joker, in English. So once again, what is language? I strongly believe that language is knowledge. Language is knowledge, information. Language equals knowledge. And vice versa. Knowledge is language. Let that sink in for a moment. There is no knowledge without language, nor there is language without knowledge. Let me repeat that. Language doesn't exist without knowledge. Neither does knowledge without language. What do I mean? For instance, history is language. History equals language. Think about it. Does history exist without language? Does tomorrow exist without language? I mean, yes, the sun will rise tomorrow with or without language, but my question is, does the concept of tomorrow, the way we, Homo sapiens, understand it, exist without language? Is there tomorrow for the pen, for the veg, for the monkey? Physics is language. Art is language. Mathematics, medicine is language. Marketing, programming, fashion is all language. Everything you see around you is language. Knowledge is language. And language is knowledge. Language is fashion. Language is marketing. Language is medicine. Language is history. And so on and so forth. You learn history through language. And language through history. You learn medicine through language and language through medicine. And so on and so forth. There is a strong correlation between the size of your vocabulary and the size of the knowledge you possess. For instance, listening to a physicist talk about, say, quantum physics or string theory in your native language,
so the proton and the neutron were over here.
Sounds like listening to a foreign language because you lack the knowledge and vocabulary that goes with it. You learn physics through language and language through physics. You can't cram all those scientific terms without understanding the subject, nor can you learn the subject without the scientific terms. Knowledge doesn't exist without language. Knowledge equals language. And language equals knowledge. No knowledge, no language. No question about that. So, my question is, what's taking place in the language classroom? What are people learning in language schools? What is the language teacher teaching exactly? Language? Language without substance? Without the knowledge? So what we get is language is language. A complete nonsense, emptiness, nothing, zero, zilch, nada. Language teachers use language to teach language. Doesn't make sense. Teachers use language to teach knowledge, things like art, philosophy, mathematics, history. But using language to teach language makes no sense. Using one's native language to teach a foreign language makes no sense. They cancel each other out. And even in a monolingual language classroom, say teaching English using English. Teaching what exactly? Vocabulary wholesale? 10 ways to say sorry. The 10 most common phrasal verbs. Top 10 business idioms. No substance, just random words, just fake mini stories, fake situational dialogues, telephone English, restaurant English, airport English, TOEFL English. Hollow, empty concepts, no substance, no context, no compelling content. Any teacher who promises to teach you business English or telephone English or conversational English is either delusional or dishonest. Language is knowledge on a certain topic. You need to know about that very same topic in order to talk about it. Knowledge first, language second. Or I should say, knowledge through language. Language is first and foremost a tool for acquiring knowledge. Let me repeat that. Language is a tool for acquiring knowledge. So instead of saying, I want to learn a foreign language, you should say, I want to learn about such and such topic through the foreign language. Don't say, I want to learn English, but rather, I want to learn about France in the 18th century through English. Or I want to learn about marketing through English, and so on and so forth. Language is first and foremost a tool for getting knowledge. Your main focus should never be on the language. Input before output. Knowledge before speaking. Input before output. Meaningful input, compelling input, things you want to talk about before you actually talk about it. And the input, the knowledge, has to be in the language you want to speak. You can't acquire knowledge in your native language and then learn a few words in idioms in a foreign language and expect to speak fluently in the foreign language. No, that's not how speaking works. Yet another mistake people make. You may be a Nobel Prize winner in physics from Japan, have all the knowledge related to physics in your head, but if you want to talk about physics in fluent English, you need, in a way, to relearn or at least reread your physics in English. You have the knowledge, but you still need to see how that very same knowledge is presented, is structured in the language you want to speak. That is why there is no such thing as a polyglot. People claiming to speak 10, 20 languages. A complete input before output. Knowledge before speaking. And I ask again, where does the language teacher fit into the picture? When was the last time you learned a useful piece of knowledge, something that you were really interested in your language school? Or from a video of a language teacher on YouTube? How can you? For the most part, language teachers are not experts in anything but language. I mean, honestly, what is a degree in TESOL or CELTA or applied linguistics supposed to mean? Better at explaining words? Better at pronouncing words? Basically, being a better human dictionary? Any teacher who promises to fix your accent and teach you perfect British pronunciation or awesome American pronunciation is either delusional or dishonest. Anybody who promises to teach you slang, phrasal verbs, idioms, natural English, amazing English is either delusional or dishonest. Language equals knowledge. No knowledge, no language. You have no choice. There is no choice. You see, it's down to basic biology, human physiology. The brain simply cannot retain all that vocabulary and grammar without meaningful content, without the information those words and grammar convey. Information you feel passionate about. This is a pen. Means nothing. This is the pen with which the Joker did his magic trick has a meaning. It's something you are much more likely to remember and understand the difference between a pen and the pen. That is how we learn vocabulary and grammar, by way of consuming content, part of which is entertainment, movies. The way people look at learning a foreign language is learn the language first and then start reading books and start watching movies without subtitles. Language and information are two almost unrelated things. Language first, interesting content second. No, it's the other way around. You learn English through reading interesting books. You learn English through watching interesting movies. Interesting for you, not for your teacher. The focus is on the content, and the language learning is secondary. So, yes, we do learn a foreign language, but the learning is secondary. The focus is on the knowledge or entertainment you want to consume, and the language learning is secondary. Yes, we learn, but that learning doesn't require a separate teacher, doesn't require a separate subject, doesn't require a separate classroom, and least of all, a separate building. Language schools should not exist. Foreign language learning as a separate subject should not exist. Not in its current format anyway. The moment you focus on the language is the moment you will never learn it. Because it's not about the language, but mainly about the knowledge. Yes, we as adults do learn foreign languages. We learn. The learning process is not automatic, is not unconscious. Non-natives don't learn like natives. Adults don't learn like children. Of course not. Yes, we learn, but that doesn't happen in a language classroom, in a language school. And least of all, watching YouTube videos of people calling themselves language teachers. YouTube. What a massive waste of time this thing is. My goodness. YouTube is for people who don't value their time. YouTube is not free. You pay with your time. Nobody has ever learned a foreign language watching YouTube videos of people calling themselves language teachers. Never, ever. Stop subscribing right and left. The moment you subscribe to a language learning channel on YouTube is the moment you become passive. Is the moment you will never learn the language. Same goes for Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. A colossal waste of time. Following language teachers on Instagram. Really? What are you waiting for? The next free set of random words. Next random grammar explanation. Next piece of free advice from people who have never mastered a foreign language. Unsubscribe. Unfollow. Who are you following? Follow topics, not language teachers. Your focus should be on the topic, not the language. None of those channels contain any useful content. They all focus on the language. A complete nonsense. Language is knowledge on a particular topic. You need to know about that very same topic in order to talk about it, in order to start communicating, start speaking. Speaking, practice speaking, the other complete nonsense. People paying crazy money to practice their speaking with native speakers. The worst advice you can get is go out and speak. Speak from day one. Go out and find somebody to speak to in English. Go to the nearest bar, find a foreigner, buy him a drink, and start practicing your English. Practice your speaking. Italki, Lingoda, speaking groups on Facebook, membership sites, charging crazy money for speaking. Speaking practice. Speaking English. Do you have any idea how ridiculous this is? Speak about what? Wise men speak because they have something to say. Fools because they have to say something. Yep, that guy. Language is knowledge on a particular topic. You need the knowledge first, and then you'll be able to talk about it. And if you already have the knowledge, why would you join an English-speaking group? Instead, join a group that discusses that very same topic. Join a group where people discuss, say, fashion or movies or history. Discuss history in English or French or whatever language you want to speak. English-speaking groups? Do what? Take your vocabulary out for a test drive? Show off that new business idiom you crammed the day before? Exercise your English-speaking muscles? Do you see what I see? Madness. If you think that the main reason your English sucks is because of your lack of speaking practice, you are either delusional or lonely. Does any of this make any sense? Any sense at all? They say AI will put a lot of people out of work. How about common sense? Millions of language teachers, guides, coaches, tons of language textbooks, online courses, membership sites, language apps, Anki, a gazillion language schools, countless hours wasted, a multi-billion-dollar black hole. Foreign language learning as a separate subject should not exist. No one has ever learned a foreign language by focusing on the foreign language. I should know. I was an English teacher for over 12 years. taught more than 20,000 individual lessons to over 2,000 people, and can tell you with absolute certainty that language is not teachable. Because it's not about the language, but mainly about the content. Compelling content. Compelling content is not something a teacher can give you. Sorry, is not something a language teacher can give you. Compelling content is something you need to figure out for yourself. Something you don't go to a language school for. I should know. I mastered English without a language teacher, outside an English-speaking country, as an adult. I can't teach you English. I can't give you vocabulary or grammar. What I can teach you, though, is how to learn vocabulary and grammar. How I learned vocabulary and grammar. As the old proverb goes, give a man a fish and you feed him for a day. Teach a man how to fish and you feed him for a lifetime. You know, I'm not a fan of Tony Robbins, but a quote of his caught my attention recently. If you want to be successful, find someone who has achieved the results you want and copy what they do, and you will achieve the same results. True, very true. Next time your teacher starts making big promises about teaching you this and that, about making you this and that, what you need to do is stop him and simply say, "Stop telling me what to do. Instead, tell me how you did it. Don't promise to make me the most powerful, most confident, most fluent English speaker. Don't make promises you can't keep. Just write down how you did it, and I will copy it and try to achieve the same results." Don't skip a thing. Don't add anything either. Not in theory, but in practice. How you did it. Not your student, not your brother, not your friend, but you. How you did it, so I can copy it. That's why a native speaker of the language you're trying to learn can never do that. Actually, they can, but you can't copy it. Anyway, that is what a teacher is supposed to do. Teach the student how to learn alone, without a teacher, without membership sites, without monthly fees. Teach the student how to become an independent learner. Any teacher who promises to teach you American pronunciation or British pronunciation is either delusional or lying. Any teacher who promises to teach you slang, idioms, phrasal verbs, business English, conversational English, TOEFL English is either delusional or lying. Anybody who promises to teach you to speak a foreign language fluently, powerfully, effortlessly, confidently, extraordinarily is nuts. And you are twice as nuts for buying it. Does any of this make any sense? Any sense at all? If yes, please share. Please share. Thank you.